Rivera-Tinsley, and each month we interview incredible people who are working towards creating a more sustainable and equitable future with conversations that are focused on gender, racial, and environmental justice. And this month, I am honored to have my guest, Ruby Mundok, join me. We're going to be discussing youth voice, civic engagement, and how it can impact the future of Pennsylvania. Ruby, thank you so much for joining me. And so, my first
Sure.
question for you is just to ask you, what does it mean to be the executive director of Governor Shapiro's Advisory Commission for Next Generation Engagement?
Thank you so much for having me. And fun fact, real quick, I used to study media arts production and be really into podcasting. So it feels good to be back in this media realm. So thank you so much for having me. That is a great first question. I would say, honestly, just a huge honor to be able to represent Pennsylvania's young people within the Shapiro administration. I really never intended or expected or saw myself working in state government and working in a role where I would be able to help impact so many policies in Pennsylvania and help, just elevate so many people's voices. It's been so awesome to just see where this role can take me and see what we can do for Pennsylvania and for young people all around our Commonwealth.
What inspired you to get involved in activism and public service?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, in college, I was down at Millersville University here in Lancaster, and I was studying media arts production. So, I fully wanted to get into news and do something in the digital media world. But back in June, I think June of 2022, when Roe v. Wade got overturned, I was like, okay, this is serious. This is about to get personal. And when I found out that the decisions of that were going to be left up to the state, I wanted to make sure that Pennsylvania was a place that I could continue to live and have rights to my body and to decide, what I did with my body. I knew that there was an important race coming up that year in Pennsylvania for who our next governor would be. And so one fateful day in June, I decided to just kind of start doing some research on what that looked like. That is when I found Josh Shapiro and just trying to figure out, what that was. So I signed up for it. Again, had no experience really in youth engagement, but I was like, I want to do something to make sure that myself and my friends and family feel safe to stay in Pennsylvania. And so Millersville University was the second chapter of Students for Shapiro to be created, which became a huge movement and a huge impact on his campaign. We were hosting voter registration drives every single day on campus from the start of the semester to the deadline to register. We were tabling for Josh Shapiro around Lancaster City and on campus. And our biggest goal was just making sure that young people were aware that there was this crucial election coming up that November in Pennsylvania. So after he thankfully won in November, I then joined his inaugural committee, kind of continuing that work and making sure that young people were involved and at the center of these celebrations since we had played such a big role in helping him win his election. So we secured free lodging, free transportation, and free tickets to the inaugural ceremony in Harrisburg, and then also the celebration afterwards for young people and students from around Pennsylvania to be a part of those celebrations and get to witness this awesome moment in Pennsylvania history. So I started in his administration as the first intern. Early on in his time as governor, I was an intern in his Office of Digital Strategy. And then about 2 months later, he decided to start this commission on next generation engagement. And the opportunity was presented. They asked if it would be something I was interested in interviewing for. That one day in June, when I decided to look up his website and on a whim start a chapter of Students for Shapiro, I really wouldn't be in this position where I am now and being able to help make the impact that the commission has had so far.
Your story is so emblematic of how many people get into these movements, right? There's
Hmm.
something inside that's just like, I need to do something now. And it sounds like you were in the right place at the right time and had the perfect alignment of skills and passion. And I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you were there. Is there ever any moment where you feel that people don't take you seriously because of your age or experience? And if so, how have you navigated that?
Yeah, I think every young person, myself included, has felt that way in one situation or another, especially when it comes to state government. You know, typically the people you're in the room with are a lot older. And so I have found myself in situations like that. But I think just being able to get past that imposter syndrome, which we all face, I face almost every single day, and remember that you are in that room for a reason. I tell myself that all the time. If I'm feeling some sort of way in a meeting or after a conversation, I tell myself, I was invited to that conversation or included in that conversation for a reason. My opinions and my voices are valued, even if sometimes I might not feel like they are. And I think Governor Shapiro creating this commission specifically focused on amplifying the voices of 16 to 26-year-olds is a true testament of that as well. And I've seen over the past 2.5 years in this role that agencies and offices that might not have considered youth voices before, not for any bad reason, but it just might have not crossed their mind, they're starting to open up to that idea and include us in more conversations, especially conversations that are going to affect us directly.
Such important words for all of us. And it's a good reminder, even for myself. What are some of the biggest issues that you've been hearing from the young people on the ground?
I would say mental health is one of the biggest issues I hear. And so, we have had countless conversations with young people around Pennsylvania, as well as the governor has had many roundtable discussions with students in their schools, and have heard firsthand that young people are just facing so many challenges, and it's impacting us negatively in our mental health. We had to go through the COVID pandemic and all of that at such a young age. We've been raised in the age of social media. It's no wonder that, we're facing these issues. But thankfully, Governor Shapiro has listened to these young people and to myself when we've shared these concerns. And he's been able to invest $200 million over the past 2 years for mental health supports in our schools, which we've seen great impact from. I've talked to so many students that now have access to mental health resources and counselors within their schools to get resources and help that they just didn't have before. We're grateful for young people for being so open about those concerns, and it's helping us make impact and be able to help them on the policy side of things. I would say also gun violence is a huge topic we hear about. This age range, just we grew up in the era of school mass shootings, which is so heartbreaking. And I remember back when I was in high school and even earlier, having to go through the school shooting drills and just being so afraid that you see it in the news often, but that one day it would be my school that we were seeing in the news. Governor Shapiro and Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis have heard those concerns. We reestablished the Office of Gun Violence Prevention here in Pennsylvania, which has been a huge help. They've been having roundtable discussions across Pennsylvania with tons of different groups, students, advocates, stakeholders, to make sure that we are hearing these concerns and, able to fund programs to help prevent gun violence in our communities. We've been able to invest millions of dollars into these programs, and we're seeing a lot of direct impact, especially with our after school programs and helping our kids feel safer in their communities. So I would say those two are two issues that I hear a lot, but that we've been able to make some progress in.
It's great to hear that that the concerns of those students and those young people have resulted in actual action and
Hmm.
allocating dollars to the issue. Because if it's not budgeted, nobody's thinking about it. That
Exactly.
is amazing to hear, and also really resonates with me and the organization, because those are two topics that have been really, really at the forefront for our girl govers as well. So it's really awesome to hear that. Let us know, what is one policy win or moment that you are really proud of from your time on the commission?
We have done a lot of work in the menstrual equity space here in Pennsylvania. A few years ago, First Lady Lori Shapiro was visiting an organization in Philadelphia called the Spot Period Hub, which provides free period products for community members in that part of Philly. They're doing amazing work, and the First Lady got to tour and meet them. And while she was there, she met with a mom who was picking up products for her and her daughters, who shared with the First Lady that her daughters didn't have access to period products for so long that they would have to miss class and eventually ended up in truancy court just because they didn't have access to period products and had to miss school because of it. The governor proposed $3 million for free period products in our K through 12 schools in his 2024 budget. This was the first time in Pennsylvania history that a governor had mentioned pads and tampons in a budget. It was amazing to be there in the moment. Lots of tears, lots of cheers from everyone. And thankfully, we got that $3 million passed later on in the summer. So since then, we've been able to visit a ton of schools across Pennsylvania and see the direct impact that this funding has provided to its students. A lot of these schools that we visited had programs that provided free period products to their students before, but they were using either community donations or teachers and staff were using their own money out of their pockets to provide these products for their students. So being able to see how these programs could continue and in most cases expand because of the funding from the state has been so special, and just hearing from the students and how prideful they are that their school is providing free products is it's such a cool thing. Um, we held roundtable discussions at the governor's residence with different stakeholders and students and medical professionals who got to speak directly with us and the First Lady to, let us know the importance of these programs. Um, and then with that, we've noticed such a great movement around this menstrual equity work that we've decided to continue expanding it however much we can. So Governor Shapiro signed an executive order called the Higher Executive Order, which is focused on making the Commonwealth the best place for people to work in Pennsylvania. And as a part of that, we now have free period products in our state buildings, which, as someone whose office is in the state building, has been amazing because I find myself unprepared more times than I would like to admit. And we also just announced back in May that 68 of our state parks also now provide free period products with plans to expand to more. And I want to add that that idea and putting free products in our state parks was actually brought to our attention by a student up when we visited Tunkhannock Area High School. A student mentioned to the First Lady and I that her dad worked at a state park and that she had suggested to him, you might want to keep some pads and tampons in your office just in case, anyone ever needs them. And the First Lady was like, wait, why have we not thought about this before? She texted Secretary Dunn, who's the secretary of our Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. And then a few months later, we were able to launch this program at our state parks, which I am just so immensely proud of. And, we plan to continue this work as much as we can. We have another $3 million proposed in this year's budget to continue funding for our schools, and we will see where it goes. But I'm just so proud, and being able to see the direct impact has been just life-changing.
That is awesome. Our Girl Govers, so every year, we're about to get into this time. So in November and December, we do a period product drive and we
Oh,
donate our
awesome.
period products to schools and other places. And it's awesome that we're not going to have to donate those to schools. Maybe this year we can choose another space.
Yeah.
So these are all amazing and inspirational stories. And I've loved talking to you and hearing these things. I have one last question before you can share whatever you want to share. So if anyone listening wants to get involved in advocacy or policymaking, but they are still young, they're in high school, what's a real first step that they can take?
Yeah. I think, what got me into this work, getting involved in campaigns, especially local and state level campaigns, is a great way to get involved. You're meeting people sometimes at the beginning of their career, and a lot of great people working on their teams. And that was truly such a life-changing experience. Even for me, just volunteering, it was so cool to be able to ride something out from the beginning to winning the election and seeing all of the hard work that we put in pay off. And I also made a ton of really great connections from that experience. So, especially at the local level, there's so many small grassroots campaigns that happen that just need volunteers and need help. and can be such a great experience, and to directly impact your community. So I would say get involved in any campaigns that you can. Also, internship opportunities. I know sometimes it can be discouraging because some internships are only for college students or older, but there are opportunities for high school students. And I know that some state legislators have next gen councils. I know that different state agencies have next gen councils similar to our commission. So get involved with those if you see opportunities. Follow different agencies on social media. They're always posting information about things like that. The first one that comes to mind is DCNR, has a next gen council that does amazing work and has, tons of great students from around Pennsylvania. So I think just putting yourself out there and looking for those opportunities, they're not going to come drop into your lap. You have to put in the work, but it's so worth it. And then also, like, my biggest piece of advice is to network as much as you can. That is truly what got me where I am today, was building connections with people through the work I was doing and then continuing to foster those connections and not being afraid to reach out to someone and say, "Hey, I would love an opportunity to do this. Do you have, any resources that could help me or any openings that I can fill?" And my dad always reminds me, he says, "It's who you know. That is the most important thing, is who you know." So, get out there and network, ask someone to grab coffee or grab lunch with you. And so reaching out and just, kind of shooting your shot, it will never hurt.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I will say, Girl Gov, if there are any folks out there that are listening or watching, Girl Gov is a perfect program to put
Yes.
yourself in a position to do all of those things, to join a campaign, to learn about the issues, to be around people that also want to use their voice so that there is a community. So just a little plug for that.
And I would say also, shameless plug, but follow the commission on Instagram at PA Next Generation. You can be updated on things that we're working on there. But I really just think, don't be afraid to use your voice and share your opinions and your thoughts and your feelings. And have no doubt that it'll make a difference, in Pennsylvania, in the country, in your life specifically. It's just so worth it.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, your words of wisdom, and for inviting people to, and inviting young people in particular to use their voice and to learn from you. If folks want to learn more or stay connected to you or stay connected to what's happening in Pennsylvania at the state level, where can they find you and where can they find that information?
Yeah, so the best place to find information on the commission is our Instagram. If anyone's interested in speaking with me directly, you can always email nextgen@pa.gov. I'm always happy to set up a call or meet in person if I'm nearby to talk with you, or hear your opinions or anything like that. And also, I would say follow Governor Shapiro on his social media. His digital team does an amazing job getting content out there and trying to reach all sorts of different audiences, and they are constantly updating his audience with, updates on the administration, things we've been able to secure and achieve. So following his social media is such a great way to stay involved with what is happening at the state level.
Awesome. And for folks who want to know more about the Women and Girls Foundation, you can find us on Instagram at WGFPA. You can also find lots of information about GirlGov at GirlGov on Instagram. And GirlGov has we share lots of ways that you can stay connected and lots of ways that you can be active. All right, so that is all that we have for today. Until next time, just really appreciate you and appreciate folks who are listening and tuning in.